All right, so picture this. You're out stargazing. It's a perfect night, beautiful, and then bam, someone hits you with a flashlight.
Yeah, the worst.
Right, like the ultimate stargazing crime. But have you ever thought about why that, why that ruins your night vision?
It's actually pretty interesting when you think about it.
For sure, and that's exactly what we're diving into today, like the science of night vision, and trust me, there are some crazy surprises.
Yeah, like did you know there's a theory that Earth might have been purple at one point? Yeah, because of the same molecule that helps us see in the dark.
A purple Earth. Okay, now I'm really curious.
That's a wild one.
But okay, before we get to that, how does this night vision thing even work? Like, what's going on in our eyes?
Well, it all comes down to these special cells in our eyes called photoreceptors.
Okay.
And there are two main types, rods and cones.
Oh yeah, rods and cones. I kind of remember that from biology class a long time ago, though.
Right. So think of them as like specialized teams in your eyes, each with their own, strengths.
Gotcha. So remind me, what do they actually do?
Okay, so cones, they're like your daytime crew, love bright light, help you see all the colors, and they give you that sharp, detailed vision.
Okay.
And they're mostly found in the fovea, which is like the center of your visual field.
So cones are why we can see like a beautiful sunset or, I don't know, a colorful painting.
Exactly. Now, rods, on the other hand, they're more like the night owls.
Okay.
They're super sensitive to light, but they don't see color. They work best in low light, and they're responsible for your peripheral vision.
So that's why, like, sometimes you see something move out of the corner of your eye, but when you look directly at it, nothing's there.
Yeah. It's those rods picking up on that little bit of movement, even when it's dim.
Makes sense. And I've heard astronomers actually use this to their advantage.
Yeah, it's called averted vision.
Averted vision. Is that like when you pretend you don't see someone you don't want to talk to?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No, not quite. It's a way to see really faint objects in the night sky. By looking a little bit away from what you're trying to see, you're letting your rods, those sensitive rods in your peripheral vision, take over.
Oh, so like instead of looking directly at a dim star, I should look kind of off to the side?
Exactly. And there's even this thing called the blinking planetary nebula. It's super faint, and if you look right at it, it can, like, disappear.
Whoa! Really?
Yeah, but if you use averted vision, it pops back into view.
That's crazy. It's like a magic trick in space.
Right.
Okay, so that's averted vision. It's all about the rods. But going back to that flashlight thing, like, what's actually happening when that bright light hits our eyes?
Well, both rods and cones, they use this special molecule called retinal.
Okay.
It actually comes from vitamin A, and it's, like, essential for vision.
So it's involved in both daytime and nighttime vision.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And here's where it gets even cooler. When light hits retinal, it, like, changes shape. And that change triggers a signal that goes to your brain. And your brain is like, hey, I'm seeing something.
So that's how we see.
Yeah. But the thing is, this whole process is called photo bleaching. It takes, a little bit of time to reset.
Wait, so that's why it takes time to see again after you've been, like, blinded by a bright light?
Exactly. Those retinal molecules are taking a little break to get back to their original shape.
Okay, so that's why we're stumbling around in the dark for a few minutes.
Yep. Now imagine someone shines a bright white light right in your eyes. It's like hitting a reset button on all those retinal molecules in your rods.
And then they can't work for a bit.
Exactly.
Ah, so that's the science behind it. Makes sense. But I've always heard astronomers use red light instead of white light when they're, working at night.
Yeah, red light's interesting.
So why red light?
Well, red light, it has a longer wavelength, and it doesn't mess with rhodopsin as much.
Rhodopsin. Wait, I thought retinal was the important thing.
It is. But think of it this way. Retinal is the key that unlocks the door, and rhodopsin's the lock itself.
Okay.
They work together. And red light's less likely to, like, jiggle the lock, if you will. So your rods can stay sensitive in low light.
So red light's like a, I don't know, gentler way to see in the dark.
Yeah, you could say that, but it's important to remember that even red light, even if it's dim, can still affect your night vision.
So the best thing is just less light overall.
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay, good to know. Now, you mentioned something earlier about a purple Earth.
Right. And it's all connected to retinal, actually.
A purple Earth. Okay, you have to tell me more about this.
So there's this hypothesis that, like, billions of years ago, ancient microbes might have used retinal for photosynthesis.
Instead of chlorophyll, like plants use now?
Exactly. But here's the thing. Retinal absorbs green and yellow light and reflects back red and blue.
Wait, so if Earth was covered in these microbes, instead of reflecting green light like it does now, it would reflect red and blue, which makes
Yeah.
purple.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, and now scientists are actually using this knowledge to look for life on other planets.
Really?
They're looking for planets that have similar light reflection patterns, thinking that maybe, just maybe, those planets could have, life forms that use retinal for photosynthesis.
This is blowing my mind. Who knew a deep dive into night vision would take us all the way to like purple planets and alien life?
Pretty amazing what you can learn, right?
Seriously. So we've covered rods and cones, the whole retinal thing, and even a purple Earth. Where do we even go from here?
Well, we've talked about how light affects our vision, but what about when there's no light at all? What happens when it's just like total darkness?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's a little spooky to think about.
Right.
And what about all those stories of people, developing like super senses in the dark? Is there any truth to that?
That's where we'll pick up in part two. We'll venture into the world of darkness and see what secrets we can uncover.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Welcome back to our deep dive into seeing in the dark.
So last time we were talking about, what happens when we're in total darkness, and honestly, it's a little creepy to think about.
Yeah, it is kind of eerie, isn't it?
Hmm.
But it's also like a chance to see how adaptable our bodies and brains can be.
Okay.
Because you see, it's not just our eyes that are involved.
Wait, what do you mean? I thought vision was all about our eyes.
Well, yeah, our eyes are the ones, capturing the light, but it's our brain that's really interpreting everything.
Right.
And our brains are crazy adaptable.
Yeah.
When one sense is limited, like in the dark, they can actually start to boost the other senses.
So you're saying like our hearing and touch get better when we can't see as well.
Exactly. Think about it. When you lose your sight, your brain suddenly has all this extra processing power, and it's like, okay, let's focus on those other senses.
Right. Makes sense.
And there's actually there's scientific evidence for this. Like studies have shown that people who are blind often have a much stronger sense of hearing, touch, and even smell.
Wow, it's like they develop superpowers to make up for not being able to see.
Yeah, kinda. There are all these amazing stories of blind people navigating like really complex environments just using echolocation.
Echolocation, like bats.
Yep. By making clicking sounds and listening to the echoes, they can like build a mental map of their surroundings.
That's incredible. It's like a real life daredevil.
Right.
So even though being in total darkness might seem limiting, you can actually like unlock these other senses.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool trade-off that shows you just how plastic the human brain really is.
For sure. But okay, let's not forget about our eyes completely. Are they doing anything in total darkness?
Well, we can't see in the traditional sense when there's no light, but our eyes, especially those rods, are still active.
So what are they doing if there's no light to see?
They're still sending signals to the brain, even in the dark. It's like they're saying, hey, it's dark out here.
So even though we're not like consciously seeing anything, our brain is still getting information about the darkness.
Exactly. And that's actually really important for regulating our sleep cycle.
Oh, right. That's why you're supposed to sleep in a dark room.
Yeah, your brain needs that darkness signal to like produce melatonin and all that.
Makes sense. So even in darkness, our eyes and brain are working together. That's pretty amazing.
It is. Now, all this talk about human vision, what about other animals? Do they see in the dark differently than us?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm sure they do.
Yeah, the animal kingdom is full of crazy adaptations for seeing in the dark.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, so think about nocturnal animals like owls, right? Their eyes are packed with those rods we talked about, so they have incredible night vision.
Okay.
But they also have this reflective layer behind their retinas. It's called the tapetum lucidum.
Oh, that's why their eyes glow in the dark, right?
Exactly. It acts like a mirror, reflecting any light back through the retina, so they basically get a second chance to see it.
Wow, that's like having built-in night vision goggles. So can they see in like near total darkness?
Pretty much, yeah. And then you have deep sea creatures. They've evolved even more bizarre adaptations because down there's no sunlight at all.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Like, what kind of adaptations?
Well, some deep sea fish, they can actually produce their own light. It's called bioluminescence.
So they're like underwater fireflies.
Exactly. They use these flashes to communicate, attract prey, or even scare off predators.
That's so cool. And do they have any other like visual superpowers?
They do. Some have eyes that are super sensitive to like very specific wavelengths of light. the kind that other bioluminescent creatures emit.
So they can see these signals even in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean.
Yeah, it's like they're tuned into a whole different visual world.
This is awesome. It's like we think we know how the world looks, but there are all these other ways of seeing things out there.
Right. It really makes you think.
It does. I feel like I've only just like scratched the surface of all this.
There's always more to learn. But we've covered a lot in this deep dive, from our own eyes to the depths of the ocean and even a purple Earth.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. But we're not done yet. When we come back for part 3, we're going to look at the future of vision.
Oh, cool. Like what kind of stuff?
We'll talk about cutting-edge technologies that could enhance our sight, and even some of the philosophical implications of, seeing the world in totally new ways.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. I can't wait. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about all these amazing ways that, all these ways that living things can see in the dark.
It's been quite the journey.
It has, from starlight to, the bottom of the ocean. It's wild.
And now it's time to look ahead.
Ooh, the future. I love it. So what's coming up in the world of vision? Flying cars,
Yeah.
teleportation.
Maybe not quite yet.
Okay.
But there are some seriously cool things happening in vision science.
Like what? Tell me everything.
Okay, so imagine seeing beyond what humans can normally see. Like,
Yeah.
what if you could see infrared or ultraviolet light?
Whoa, okay, that's like straight out of a comic book. Are you serious?
Yeah. Scientists are developing devices that can, translate those wavelengths of light, the ones we can't normally see, into images we can actually perceive.
So we could see like heat signatures or like counterfeit money with UV.
Exactly. The possibilities are huge. And not just for fun stuff. Think about medicine, security, art, even astronomy. All sorts of fields could use this.
It's like we're upgrading our eyes, giving them new superpowers. But what about people who have already lost their sight? Is there anything for them?
There is. Some really amazing work is being done with prosthetics to try to restore vision.
How does that even work?
Well, some of the most promising research involves connecting, tiny cameras to electrodes that are implanted in the brain.
Okay.
So it bypasses any damaged optic nerves and sends the visual information straight to the visual cortex, the part of the brain that processes sight.
So it's like creating a whole new path for vision, going right to the source.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's still early, but the potential is incredible. Imagine a world where blindness isn't a barrier to seeing anymore.
That would be amazing. Okay, but thinking bigger picture, with all these advancements, are there any philosophical things we should be thinking about? Like if we start seeing the world in completely different ways, could it change how we understand, reality itself?
That's a really interesting question. And I think, as we expand our visual abilities, we might have to rethink some of our basic ideas about what's real.
You mean like what we see might not be the whole truth?
Right. Our perception of reality, it's really shaped by what our senses can and can't do.
Okay.
So as we figure out ways to break past those limits, who knows how our understanding of the world might change.
It's like that saying, seeing is believing, might need an update.
Yeah, maybe a little asterisk.
Yeah.
But what you see depends on how you're looking.
That's a good one. This whole deep dive has been incredible. We've learned about how our eyes work, how other animals see, a purple earth, future tech. It's mind-blowing.
There's so much out there to explore, right?
It really is. And, maybe someday we will find that purple planet.
Who knows? The universe is full of surprises.
Well said. So to all our listeners, as we wrap up this deep dive into seeing in the dark, we want to leave you with this. Never stop exploring, keep questioning, and keep expanding your own vision of the world, both literally and, figuratively.
The darkness isn't the end. It's just a chance to see things in a new light.